Hello.
Hey there, we'll wait a couple more minutes until we get to the top of the hour.
Hello? Did you,
All right, welcome everybody. It is 2 o'clock, so we'll get started. All right, so this is one of 6 possible trainings. They're all 6 are the same. So if you signed up for more than one, those are repeats. So you have chosen the first one, which is probably great timing because some of the focus topics are due on the 31st if you were one of the responsibles or accountables for those. But nevertheless, we'll get into it. So let's see, our agenda. Can everybody hear me? Everybody stay on mute except for someone to tell me they can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right. So we're going to cover a few things. First off is what is the PMO? What is Smart Sheets? What are SMART goals? And then we're going to demo accessing the PMO, what the PMO hub is, a demo of the project templates, and how to enter your SMART goals. So it's going to be an overview of everything. We're going to go through that. All right. So the what is the PMO? PMO stands for Project Management Office. If anybody's had any project management training, that's a pretty standard term, PMO. If you were to Google it, it'd come back with a whole lot of stuff about project management. As far as what we're going to do, we're going to provide some PM training on our hub that I'll be showing you. There's a link to Absorb where there's project management training. It's good to go through that because essentially everybody at YPO who ever has worked on a project or been in charge of a SMART goal, you're a project manager, even if you haven't been trained as a project manager. If you're ensuring that something gets completed that's got multiple things that need to get done to complete it, you're managing a project. And so that's basically what a project manager does is get a task and break it down into pieces and ensure it gets done. Aside from the project management training, I will be setting up periodic PMO type training, PM training that'll take place. We'll send out notices for that. We will also provide some Smartsheet training. There's generic Smartsheet training on how to do everything you want to do. This link is also on the PMO Hub, so I will show you the hub in a bit. So you can get certified in Smartsheets. There's how to do all types of things, beginning as a beginner or as advanced. It's all there. And then separately, I will be providing some periodic training on stuff that's specific to YPO in our templates. But that stuff's really useful if you really want to get into how to set up all the cool features in Smartsheets. Reporting. One of the big functions we have is making sure that all the SMART goals are reported up to senior leadership. So all these projects link to dashboards, and those dashboards are further linked into reports for senior leadership. So it's a way to automatically get that information back without having people have to report to each different stakeholder in their projects. Excuse me. And then project help. If you're stuck on a project and you don't know what to do, we can help provide some of the best practices. I've been a project manager for 15 years. I'm a certified PMP, project management professional. Kevin on my team is also a PMP. So um, I've worked on a lot of projects with clients, customers, and worked as a program manager of a project management office before. So I have some background that may be able to help you out if you get a project. And when I say project, I mean anything that it takes to get your SMART goal done, or get some of the people on your project to work together, or when you run into a roadblock, what do you do? So this next one would be escalation help. Escalation, some people feel, is a scary term, but essentially it's a way to take any roadblocks or issues or decisions to the accountable or whoever is able to make those decisions. A lot of times, as the project manager, you're responsible for getting stuff done, but you don't ultimately make the decision on the projects. And so, when you run into a roadblock, perhaps another project is using the resource you need. Well, you can't just wait around forever. Then your project would fail. So what you do is you go up to your accountable or somebody who can make the ultimate decision between those two projects and make the decision for you. So escalation can be a really useful thing. All right, so that's basically what the PMO is, Project Management Office. We're going to do best practices. We're going to be supporting Smartsheets. We're going to be supporting the people running all the projects. So we're here to help. Our goal is not to add administration to anybody. Our goal is to make everything useful. So we want feedback when you find anything to be either a burden or a way to make it more useful. Let us know so that we can make changes, because our goal is not to just exist, but to actually make things better. Next is, what is Smartsheets? So I think everybody's probably heard of Smartsheets, but do want to make a couple points. It's not a replacement for Excel. It has a lot of Excel-like functions, and it's useful for tracking things and does stuff. But you can still use Excel for Excel stuff. Calculations, putting together financials or something like that. Excel is great for that. It probably can do 90% of what Excel does, but not everything. But so keep that in mind. It's not a replacement for Excel. You don't have to get rid of Excel sheets. This is more of a tracking tool. It also does a lot of what Microsoft Project does. It does probably 90% of what Microsoft Project does and more. It's does project management stuff. The biggest thing that Smartsheets does is automation. So you can integrate it with Teams so that it shows up as a tab in Teams. You can control access to your sheets. You can build these dashboards that you're going to see. It does all types of reporting to make your life easier. If you have multiple people on your projects, you can tell it to automatically tell them when their tasks are supposed to begin or when the end dates are approaching. Or if the moment you assign an item to somebody, it could notify them automatically. So there's a lot of stuff it could do automatically, and that's what Smartsheets is for. It's a great project management tool that does a lot of stuff that overlaps with Excel and Microsoft Project and several other things. Okay, so what are SMART goals? This is just to clear things up. Everybody at YPO should already know what SMART goals are. If you're a recent addition, it might be good to cover this. And then on the right is a diagram that I think most people are confused about. So let's go through it right quick. SMART goals are a pretty standard thing. If you Google it, you'll find all types of definitions. So I don't need to go through all the definitions on it. But essentially, what it stands for is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. So when you make your goals, you're making something that you can put a time frame on. You can measure it. It's very specific, so you know exactly what you're completing, and it's relevant to what needs to be done, and it's attainable. It's not some pie in the sky. So that's essentially what it is. So at YPO, everything is a SMART goal. We don't want to do anything that's not SMART because if you can't measure it, then how do you know it's a success? You have to measure it in some way. The SMART goals that are due now are the strategic initiatives. These are put together by the strategy committee and senior leadership. So you have these strategic initiatives. You may know them as the 10 transformational initiatives, or you may know them as the 4 strategic initiatives. But essentially, we've got these um, goals that are created by senior leadership. All of those are focus topics, and those focus topics, all focus topics, are SMART goals. So if someone says I have a SMART goal, or if someone says I have a focus topic, they're mostly the same thing. Now, not all SMART goals are focus topics, but all focus topics are SMART goals. A little confusing there. Those strategic initiatives are what are being put in right away, but separately, there's other things that come in. So global operations may come up with some projects that are needed to improve YPO, make things more efficient. Um, Creating the PMO was the global operation that is created. We got a SMART goal, but it's not a focus topic. So it could be just directly a SMART goal, or it could be a focus topic, which is a SMART goal. Member initiated activity, sometimes we've got some of that. So that can be as a focus topic, or it could just be a SMART goal that's not a focus topic. So keep those in mind. That kind of be a SMART goal without being a focus topic. Separately, you've got committee goals, network goals, region goals, all of those. Some of those are set in those strategic initiatives, those focus topics. And so some of that may be a little bit two-way. Some of those originate out here and become just SMART goals and not focus topics. All that can be a little confusing, but essentially some SMART goals get sent to them, and some of those are get created by them out there.
Sean,
So, yes.
we have a question in the chat.
Okay.
Someone has asked what the difference is between SMART and RACI. You want to answer that?
Okay. So SMART is very specific to that goal on whether it's specific and measurable and it's specific to the goal. The RACI is who's doing it, who's responsible for the work to get done, who is accountable for making sure that it did get done. And then, so RACI is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. So you've got your consulted in there, which would be people that you contact to two-way communication to figure out what you need for your goal to be completed. And then you have your informed, who needs to be informed about it, but you don't need a conversation with them. You just need to keep them up to date. So it could be like other senior leadership, or it could be someone on your team, or it could be an end user if you're putting out something that people are going to consume. So the RACI is the who, the SMART goals is specifically what the goal is. I hope that answers it.
Yes, that did. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, so hopefully that's more clear than mud, but we will continue on. So now we're going to talk about how to access the PMO and show you some of the dashboards and stuff. So from SharePoint, you can see there's under Tools, there's the Project Management Office. So if you ever get lost and can't figure out what it is, just go to SharePoint, Tools, Project Management Office, and that will take us there. So that's what I am going to do right now. So if I click on that, I gotta wait for my computer to catch up. I'm gonna minimize this. I'm gonna stop the thing, F5. Okay. Okay, so we've got SharePoint here. Tools, Project Management Office. And that takes you to our navigational hub. It's basically the front page of our Project Management Office. And from here, you can get to everything else project management wise that we've created. So I'm going to give an overview of it, and then we'll give details on some of this stuff in a little bit. But essentially, at the top, we have dashboards that we have created for all the different projects that we're going to be looking at. So we have a focus topic dashboard. This will show you all the focus topics. We have a SMART goal dashboard, and this will list out all the SMART goals. Some focus topics are SMART goals, but not all SMART goals are focus topics. So keep that in mind. That's the slight difference. Then there's the committee or council projects that you can list here. This breaks it down to just the transformational initiatives. And then we have this icon here on the end called special projects. So say you're working on, or you're given a project that is none of this. You just have a departmental project, a project that you want to complete in your department, or some other project. You could use the templates that I'm going to show you for those projects also, and you would just enter it as a special project. And so this will list out all the special projects that exist that are not SMART goals. And so you can still track them using these tools if you find them useful for tracking your projects. And then this first icon is just going to show you everything in the system. So if you can't figure out where your project is, if you click master, it's going to show everything. So, but it's going to be a long list, so you might have to search. All right, so I'm going to show you one of these, and then we'll come back to this dashboard, this navigational hub, and continue with some of these other items below. So if I was to click on focus topics, for example, it takes us to the focus topic dashboard. Essentially, what we have is some information about the focus topics that are currently in the system. So we have 8 projects in here currently. 2 are listed at risk, and 6 are listed as on track. This is pulled directly from those projects. So as the status is updated on those projects, this dashboard gets updated. If we move on down, it shows where they stand on the strategic initiatives. Is it impactful, relevant, extraordinary, prominent, or were they operational or member activity? And so those list where those projects live, and that's just informational. You probably don't need to check that very often. And then the overall status, is it started? Is it in progress, not started? And then once we have some that are completed for this fiscal year, they will start to show up as completed in here also. And then the full list of those projects. So you'll have a list of the projects for each of those. So this is your focus topic dashboard. And there's a report for those focus topics that will get printed out for senior leadership, and it'll show percent complete. This is being pulled directly off those project plans. It's got the start and end dates of those projects, and that way this information can be rolled up easily. And then this stuff will start as we start this fiscal year's reporting. This information will be pulled from each of those projects too. So that's the type of dashboard that can be accessed. And if you're ever on any of these dashboards and you click on this PMO, YPO, PMO at the top, it takes you back to our hub. So that's useful. Okay, so those what the dashboards look like. And before we go into individual projects, I'll show you a couple more things. These forms, when we talk about entering SMART goals, this is where these forms are going to be useful. If you're entering a focus topic or a SMART goal, these are the forms to do that. So if someone said, hey, you need to enter your SMART goals, this is where you're going to come. Click on the form that's relevant. If it's a focus topic, do this one. If it's not, and it's just a SMART goal, you can do that one over here. Or if you're entering your special project in. So we'll come back to that in a moment. Down here, we have some other useful links. So I mentioned PM training earlier. Down here at the bottom, we have our trainings. They got these little graduation caps here. But essentially, we have project management training that takes you to Absorb, where we have our project management training that's already in existence on Absorb. So there's various different things. It's available to anybody in the management organization. So you have basic project management training that can be pretty useful. Separately, I go back to my hub. Separately, we have Agile training also on Absorb in that same location. So if you're doing Agile projects, you have Agile training here. And then we have Smartsheet training. Everyone at YPO is able to use the Smartsheet training, which is at Smartsheets. Well, the first time you access this, you're going to need this access code. This code is given to YPO. We're paying to have this training available. So this code gets you in. So it's the first time you access, it's going to ask you for that access code. So that's our access code. So you click on the Smartsheet training. That's going to take you over here, and you can get certified in Smartsheets. You can go over some of the core features, such as how sharing, getting the most out of dashboards. If you want to create some of your own dashboards, um, some various different how to cell and row functions. If you want something to turn green, if it's a certain thing, or turn red on a certain thing, you can learn all about the different things in Smartsheets. So you have access to that using that code. So this training can be useful here. Separately, we have some other things. This just goes to Timely. This goes to, this is information on how to link up Smartsheets with Teams. So just so you know, in Teams, I get instead of getting emails for all my Teams updates, I get all my updates in Teams. So all my Smartsheet updates don't go to my email, they go to Teams. That way it unclutters my email a little bit. So that's kind of nice. There's instructions on how to do that. And then a few other things. So up here we have a Q&A and then also feedback. Please provide us feedback. If you find stuff not useful, or maybe a little tweak to make it more useful, let us know. If you have Smartsheet questions, let us know what those might be. I have contacts at Smartsheet to get answers if we can't figure that out. So let me know. And then also I've created a Q&A. This Q&A is a place to ask questions that I've also created videos to answer some of those questions. So this is a first pass of some training that we're talking about right now. Various different questions and how do I enter a SMART goal that we're going to talk about here anyhow. But we've got a lot of questions answered here with videos and some text. So if you want to ask another question, you can right there. So it's available. So that is the navigational hub. Let's move on to what your project will look like. So from any of these dashboards, we can get to a project. I have a test project, so I'm going to go to a test project that I've created. We're going to go to PMO Test Project 21, and that's just one to look at, so that if I change anything, it's not affecting anybody's project. But this is the dashboard for the project. When you enter in your SMART goal, you are going to get a dashboard like this created for your project, along with some templates created for your project. So you're going to get team roster, you're going to get your charter, you're going to get a project plan, a raid log, and I'm going to talk about those in a minute. You're going to get your budget linked up. At some point, we're going to get the budget automatically pulled in from Financial Force. Status updates, you're going to be doing your status updates. So all these at the top are going to be created for every project that gets entered. So once you have it, you'll have several sections on your dashboard. So you've got your current status. This is the SMART goal reporting that senior leadership has requested. So we're going to need this. And I'll show you how to update that in a moment. Project summary is basically information. This example project just has a bunch of me in there, but essentially it's information from about your project description. You'll have your project description in here and so on. And then this section will be linked with Financial Force. So you won't ever have to touch this. It should get linked up once we get that connector set up. So it's going to have your budget along with your current expenditures as they are in Financial Force. So you won't need to play with this. It'll just be there, and you can take a look and see if you're over budget before it's too late. And then down below is your schedule information. This is pulled off of your project plan that we'll go into. So this gets automatically updated from your project plan. You don't edit here, but it will show stuff from your project plan. And then further down are your RAID items, and we'll talk about RAID in a moment also, which RAID stands for risks, actions, issues, and decisions. So we're going to go through the templates, and then we're going to come back and look at this dashboard and see how this is displayed after you see what it is. And if you want to get some additional help, you can hit the help button. All right. So I think I saw some questions pop in the chat. Rhonda, was there any questions that I need to answer?
I basically answered it. There was a question around the Smartsheet training.
Okay.
Whether or not there was a time limit for completing it, and the answer is no. There is a set limit of licenses, but we have more licenses than we do associates, so it shouldn't be a problem. However, if you do run into a problem, then you would just notify us and we would investigate for you.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to start from the left here at the top and go through the forms that are going to get created for your projects. And then we'll come back to this dashboard and show how it works together. So the first thing is a team roster. In project management, one of the first things you do with any project is identify all your stakeholders. Who is involved in your project? If you don't know who's involved, then it makes it very difficult to complete any project. And when I say project, I'm referring to any SMART goal. So you need to, of course, you'll know you're accountable and responsible from the start, but who else will you be working with? Will you be working with governance or Marcom? Well, they need to know what's coming down the line so they can plan on it. And then do you need to work with digital or any other stakeholders? It's good to list out the team so that you can notify the team that the project is in existence, and also you can assign tasks to them so that they are not shocked when it comes down the line. So the first step in any project that you do, if you ever study project management, is identify all the stakeholders. Probably one of the most important parts of any project. Finding out who your stakeholders are late in the project can be disastrous because they may have requirements or needs that you didn't account for, and can just mess everything up. So anyhow, that's what this is. So the RACI is your responsible and accountable, consulted and informed. You can have multiple consulted. You can consult with multiple people. You can have multiple team members who essentially would be responsible for pieces of the project, but list them as team members. Or there's multiple people you need to inform. Perhaps you need to inform Scott and John. And so when you get this, it's going to be filled in for one accountable, one responsible. If you entered in the intake form, a consultant and informed, it'll also have that filled in. You as the owner of the project can update this. You change who's on your team. You can change who you're informing. This is for you to track who's on your team and who needs to be updated. And then, of course, if you have any external stakeholders, such as members or users, or anybody outside, vendors or anything like that. But this is for you to update. So feel free to make it match what you have for your project. And at the top, there are links to some of the other things. So you can go back to the dashboard. You can go on to one of the other items. Instead of clicking on that, I'm going to hit the back button just to go back to the dashboard, just so I can click the next one in line. So the next item in line is the project charter. So the charter takes the information you've been entering in for your SMART goal or your project or your special project and puts it in a readable format. So your project description will be in here, your business driver, all the stuff you entered into the intake form will be in a readable format. And if you ever needed a document to print out, you can hit the print button and get a nice PDF of your project. And so you'll have your project with all your key milestones and success or whatever you put into the intake form. You'll have your project. So if anybody says, what project is it? You can give them the PDF. So it's essentially a project charter is the project. Essentially, when someone says what project you have, the charter answers that. So that is the project charter. That you don't have to do anything with the charter unless you see something you don't like, in which case you can change it by accessing the intake that we'll cover in a little bit. The project plan. A lot of people think, oh, project plan, scary. It's not. The project plan looks scary at first because it's got a whole bunch of lines in here, but you can delete any of the lines you don't need. Essentially, a project plan is a sequence of tasks that you need to complete your goal. So if you're making a sandwich, you'd have your tasks of get the bread, get the peanut butter, get the jelly. You've got all these tasks to build this sandwich. You put them in order, put dates on them, and you have your project plan. So that's simplified, but you have more that you could do to it. So if you have if you break it down, you can expand things and add more subtasks. You don't have to have subtasks. These are optional that are in the templates. So if you decide I don't need a particular task, delete it from your project plan because that was not needed on your project. So for example, we've got these milestones here. Rename it to whatever your important milestone is. And a milestone is just...
Sean, we do have a quick question if you want to. That. The question is, does the project plan come up as pre-populated template to adjust?
It does. So what you see here is the template. This is how it starts. It starts with the navigation at the top, just like the other document, so you can get to other things. It has a legend that talks about what the colors mean, essentially. And then you have governance, which is part of every project. This section you don't need to mess with. It's governance section. If there's nothing requiring governance, they will probably just close all these items down. But that's that section. So you don't need to worry about that. So starting with your project, from here on down is all for you. This is going to be pre-populated in the project planning with some stuff. You can delete what you don't want or add, but this stuff right here was pre-populated with the template. And so it gives you just a checklist of things to do when you start your project, such as what the anticipated start date is. This was added because that came from the intake form. Getting project approval from your sponsor. If you want to go to your a sponsor, I should mention, is another name for accountable. Sponsor is a project management term for the accountable. So if you wanted to take your charter and run it past your accountable to say, are we all in sync? This is the project, and they should be in agreement with that. If they're not, that would be a good time to figure out, well, what project am I running? You know, if they don't agree with the charter, well, then obviously you don't want to start running the project until you do know what your project is. Or obtaining training on Smartsheet and tools, you could delete that, especially if you're already familiar with it. But it's just example items to get your project started. After that, you're going to want to do what you need to complete your task. You can rename it, delete them. Like if I don't need this task, delete it. Now that task doesn't exist. If I want to add in some more, you just insert button on your keyboard. You can do that. If you don't have an insert button on your keyboard, you can just insert rows. So so you can add it, and you'll notice those turned red. And so I'll talk about that. But say I have these tasks. I'll cover that red in a second. But you've entered your tasks, and maybe these were all belonging to that. Like you have a major task, and you just wanted to add the steps to complete that. There's these indent and outdent buttons up here. You can indent those, and now those all belong to task 2, and they're a roll-up. And so you can make your tasks and project plan as simple or as complicated as you like, but essentially you have your tasks listed here, and you can indent multiple times, so you can have many layers of tasks to complete it. Another thing is, when it comes to these tasks, you have the ability to roll up the status. So right now on this particular project, this important item is at 0% complete, and these are red because there are no dates over here. So we need to add some dates. So let's make these all 0% complete for our calculations. Let's put in, it's got a start date, but let's say this is a 2-day task or a 3-day task. Now they've got some dates in there. And you'll notice that now they're green because they're way off in the future. But essentially, this task 1 is a roll-up because we indented those below it, so we don't have to update those. In fact, it won't let you unless you update the tasks underneath it. And as it's completed, you type in 100%, you'll notice task 1 is now a third complete because 1 of its 3 tasks is complete. So your project is now rolling up some of that status. Once you complete the next item, it would be, and these are weighted. So if this was a simple little task and this one was a big one that was actually huge, 20 days, it's worth more than the 3-day task. So that was only 10% complete. Your percentage complete is a whole lot less. So it's weighted based on the level of effort that you have over here and the percent complete. And notice the colors. When something goes complete, it turns green because it's done. If something is not complete and the date approaches, then it will turn yellow. So let's see, today is the 29th. So let's say we'll get it close. Let's say it's going to start on the 31st. It's still, oh, this is still 2020. Let's go back. So say it's going to start on the 31st. Oh, you know what? It's got a link right here. All right, let's try that again. Go to the 31st. Now it starts on the 31st. Everything is still green, but let's say the task starts. We're going to start the task, and it starts today, let's say yesterday. Now that the task is in progress, yellow. Yellow means your task is now in progress. You are working on your task, and it's in progress, and your end date is still 20 days away. So you've got a task that's yellow, and this date is fine. Now, as you're working along in the project, if the end date starts to approach, it's the 16th, a little closer. As the end date starts to approach, it will turn yellow. It's now within 2 weeks. Just FYI, your end date is approaching, and you can set up automation to notify people if you wanted, but it's just for your eyes to catch it at your eyes so you know that it's approaching. Now, if your end date passes, say this was only a 10-day task, it's going to turn red because now it's late. So you've got an automatic notification that your task has gone late. And so that you have that visual when you're reviewing your project plan, you know stuff has gone late. So that's a little bit of the automation that's here. We can cover additional details in the future, but step one of your project will be to create your tasks, assign dates. You can set up predecessors. You can put it in sequence, give it what needs to take place. You can indent, outdent, and make everything how you like it. You can make it simple. If your project is simple, then you don't need so much complicated stuff. Then just have a sequence of tasks 1, 2, 3, and done. That's all you would need. Keep in mind, it's what you put in is what you'll get out. So if you only need simple stuff, then just put in task 1, 2, 3, and you're done, and you can get rid of all the rest of the milestones. If it's complicated and you have lots of team members, you may want to put in the different teams and start assigning it to people. So if I assign this to Rhonda, it is now assigned to her, and it will show up on her dashboard. And I'll show you where it will show up. But essentially, that's assigned to her. You could have it set to automatically notify her that she's late, and she'll get the notifications for it. So once you assign everybody all your tasks, they will know what they need to do and when, and it'll get taken care of. So that's where you would put your responsible people for each of those tasks. Predecessors essentially say, I can't do it until the guy before me is complete. So this guy here, for example, this is a 5-day item. Let's talk about this. Let me shrink this out of the way. This task one goes from the 15th to 5/21. This next item actually needs to follow that item. Say it's sequential. Then I will say he depends on this line item, which is line 51. You'll see over on the left, it's line 51. He depends on 51. So if I type in 51 right there, the date's changed because it can't take place until this one's done. So now you'll see it is in order, the 15th to the 21st. And now this one goes from the 22nd to the 28th. And this guy below it was dependent on 52, so it pushed its date out more. So you can kind of sequence your events that way too with predecessors if this can't take place until then. And it doesn't have to be in order. So this one could have been dependent on the 49th, line 49 instead, in which case it would take place at the same time as that one. So that's something that's useful. These can be graphics. If you wanted to get more advanced and look at what it looks like on a Gantt view, turn on the Gantt view and you can see your tasks. So here you'll see, as I was playing with predecessors, it put them in order, and I'll play with them again right quick just to show it off. So the predecessor, let me shrink this over so we can see it. All right, the predecessor, say that one was on 52. When I hit enter, you'll see over here, it now takes place after that task. This is a calendar across the top. So now they're in order, and they got the little arrows showing their predecessors. So it's something that can be useful. And you'll see there's other arrows out here for other predecessors that have been set up. You can delete those. You can get rid of the predecessor and just go by date only if you want to be simple. So that's what that is. And I clicked on Gantt view. We'll go back to the grid view for now. So that is a project plan. That is, use it however you like to track your project, but you do need to have some stuff in there. It will roll up. You'll notice here that it shows a 46% complete, and that's because of this particular milestone here set at a ton. I want to change that down to 10 days. But the project's showing 18%. So remember this 18% for a moment. This is going to roll up. This is also the line that gets reported on the SMART goal. All this stuff below is rolling up, just like we completed those tasks, rolled up to the sub tasks. Well, those tasks roll up to the overall project. So everything down below rolls up to that. When we click, or when we look at our dashboard, this 18% is what's going to show up there. So let's go take a look. And do I still have a red item? good. Okay, I want to show you the red item too. So this 18% is going to show up on the dashboard. So let's hit the save button. You can configure your thing to automatically save. But I always hit save out of habit. So let's go to the dashboard and go down to our project plan. All right.
Just a second, Sean. Can you go back to the project plan?
Sure.
So let's say that I have a project that has multiple SMART goals. How would I enter that?
All right. So if you have multiple SMART goals on a project, you can list any of these as SMART goals. So instead of this being your SMART goal at the top, you have milestones that might be your SMART goal. So let's, right here, for example, we have listed this as a SMART goal. So this will show up on the SMART goal roll-up for senior leadership as a status item. So this milestone number 4 is a milestone level SMART goal. This is just a comment that you typed in, so it's nothing special, but you have milestone number 4 listed as a SMART goal. This 33% will get rolled up and reported as the status for this SMART goal. These dates will also get rolled up. So the start date on this particular one is the 2nd. So if you have multiple, say this was also a SMART goal that's being rolled up to senior leadership, then we have that one. So we're going to have both of those show up as SMART goals. And we've got a percent complete on that one, and we've got a percent complete on that one, along with the dates associated with those projects or those milestones. So that's how.
And as far as measuring the metrics for the SMART goals, where do I enter that information?
So right here, we have a SMART goal metric column. So each of your SMART goals need to have a metric. That's the whole thing about being measurable, timely, and so on. So you've got to have your SMART goal metric here. And you're going to want to enter it in because this is what's going to get reported up is this metric and whether you're achieving that metric. This particular column, if you don't have any milestones that are SMART goals, you could always move this column off to the right someplace so you don't have it in your way. But it starts out here on the template so that you know where it is. But essentially for your SMART goals, you're going to need to update this so that it will show up on the report for senior leadership of what metric is being measured. Okay. So multiple SMART goals for a particular project. Most SMART goals will have one project per SMART goal, and that's what this line at the top will be reported. There are a few that there's one project with multiple SMART goals, and so this is where this comes in. So not everybody is going to be doing this. Most people are not going to have it listed there, and they would just have milestones, which will show up just on your dashboard for reporting. So it's either a milestone or SMART goal, or delete that and not even report it as an important milestone. So so when we take this to go look at our dashboard, if we come down, we will see a few things. That 18% we talked about, it shows right here. The project complete, you're at 18%. Anybody wants to know how far along the project is? Well, it's 18%. That sounds like a very exact number. Well, it is. It's based on what you've got in your project plan. The task schedule health, this is the items. You got 13 in progress. 31 are either not started or complete. And then you've got 1 who is late. So let's quick look. You got 1 task that's late. Over here, we've got what's due in the next 2 weeks. So these 13 should show up over here. You've got essentially items due in the next 2 weeks. One of the ones due is complete. So it's a 2-week out report. It's a quick way to see what's due and when. So you got the list. The team can take a quick look, anything due in the next 2 weeks. And then you have your milestone report, which would be a way to report to anybody who just wants to see the project as a whole. We had milestones 1 through 8. Well, here they are. You've got all the milestones listed here, and the statuses associated with those. So that's what the dashboard shows. All this is pulled from the project plan. And that's the project plan. Hopefully it doesn't sound too complicated. It's just a sequence of events along with the dates, percent completes, and predecessors if you want to use predecessors. All right, next up is the RAID. It's not bug spray. I've had people ask if it was bug spray. It's not. It's a way to track your risks, your actions, your issues, and decisions. On a project, you really need to track anything that comes up on calls, any actions. A lot of times with actions given to people, they get lost or don't get taken care of or whatever. Or if there's a decision made on the project and then several months later they're like, well, why did you do that? Well, if the decision is listed in the RAID log, well, then you always know why something took place. Or if you have an issue, you want to track that, make sure it gets resolved and doesn't just linger. And then risks, items that might happen. Looking ahead to see what might happen can a lot of times save you a lot of grief. If you look ahead and say, well, it's very likely that so and so is going to be out for the month of October. That means this task is probably not going to get done. You might look into the future and identify those risks, or a particular system, and this is dependent on another project. If that project doesn't complete, then we're not going to be able to start. That would be another risk. So things that might happen are risks. Things that have already happened are issues. And then action items. So I have this pulled up on every team call that I have. If I'm on a call with the team, if I'm on the call for our PMO, I have a log open to capture any actions. So I can track all my action items. I can assign my action items to other people. So I can assign them to different people and give them a date for when it needs to be done, and that way they're aware. And it turns yellow if it's due within 2 weeks. So everybody can take a look and say, oh, you've got a risk. Well, this is a risk here, but it could be an action item that you've got to complete, or a risk that you're responsible for making sure you got a good mitigation for. It's all tracked, and I do this on all my calls so that I don't have to go search for meeting minutes someplace. What actions did I have 2 weeks ago? It's all right here. And once it's closed, you can have a filter set to close it off. So for example, let's open up a new issue or a new action and open. And we'll say it's super important, high important, and it's going to have a huge impact on the project. So we've got this. I'm going to assign this to myself. And it needs to be done by tomorrow. All right, so you've got this action item on here. Once you hit save on this, you're going to get a unique ID. So anytime someone says, hey, RAID item 13, you've got, you know exactly what they're talking about. It was RAID item number 13. It's got a unique ID. You've got your action, and you can make sure that it gets completed. You can send notes to the person. If you right click over here, you can set reminders, send it to somebody, request an update. You can do all types of automated things for it. So when you request an update from the person in that column, you could do it for the entire sheet. If you got a whole bunch, you could just request an update. But so you've got your item. This filter that I was going to show you, on some of our projects, we've gone over 100 items in this list, but they're not all open because we close them as we're going along. We close them. So what we might need to do is filter it. And so what is open? Right now, there's only one open item on our list. So that filter is useful to get rid of all the closed items and filter it out. You might want to hang on to your decisions, so open in all decisions. So this way your decisions still show up, just so that they don't get lost after they've been closed, and you leave it that way. So this is a RAID log. I use it to track on all the projects. Not using a central tool to collect your action items usually means a lot of them won't get done. So if you have another method that's useful, as long as you don't lose all your actions or decisions and stuff over time, great. But essentially, this tool will help make sure nothing gets lost. So that's what a RAID log is, not bug spray. So let's go back to the project charter here. Not project charter, dashboard. Okay, so down at the bottom, we had our RAID items. So we added an action. We've got our action items and issues and decisions in here. We've got one that's open, the other 4 are closed. And here it is. Here's our open action item listed here. So we have that.
Sean, we have a question.
Sure.
It says, can you create your own template to use over and over?
We can do templates. That will take a little more thought. Like if you have a department that's going to do something repetitively and you want to use some templates and you want to use a lot of this, but maybe modify the templates to fit your department for, say, events. If you're in corporate services and you're doing events, we're going to make some custom template for them. It can be done just like these were created, but we just need to set it up. And so we probably would need to set up a time sometime in the next few weeks or so to sit down and figure out what it is you're looking for.
And to add to that, Sean, I just there is a cost associated with creating different templates. So there would need to be a case for creating templates. We can't do one-off repetitive templates for individuals, but if it's something that an entire department would use, we could do that. Or if you have recommendations to changes to these templates that might be beneficial to everyone, you can provide that feedback as well.
Yeah, so especially like with corporate services, we're going to have a much bigger thing. So we have to get a template piece for that, and that costs money. If you're making something small, then we can build off of an existing template. That it may be possible to set up something custom for that, but for the most part, something major would be another cost. Okay, all right. So we have our RAID items here. We've gone over our project schedule. Financials will be automatic, so you can just view that. You've got your project summary. At the top, we have our current status. This is required by senior leadership. They want a narrative to go along with your monthly updates. So to get this narrative, we have a link here called Status Update. So when you click on Status Update, it will bring you to the log for each status update. So the next line item that you have here will be your status update. And then once you hit save, it's going to lock that row so that the status updates are preserved over time. So for this, we could do our status update. Let's say August. We're doing it for August or whatever, and we have a whole lot of text in there. Whoops, I did not mean to do that. All right, so we have a lot of text in there. And then upcoming work. So this was work completed in the past month. And same as we've done for this past year, it's work completed in the past month. Then you have upcoming work for this month. And so we have our status update. And I'm putting this in here so you can see it on the dashboard after I go. All right, so we've got that. And now you need to select as of the month, and we're going to do it for August. It's our August monthly update as requested. Our overall health. There's a definition for this, and you'll have to look at the help file that's on the dashboard, and I'll point you to that in just a second. But essentially, when it comes to overall health, there are some key definitions for this. Green is on track, on schedule, on budget, and all that. So green means you're not late and you're going to deliver and so on. Yellow means that perhaps you're over budget, you're behind schedule or something, but you're still going to deliver the project. So yellow is it's different than the yellow on the schedule. This yellow means something is off, but you're still going to deliver. And then red means you're not going to deliver. So red is bad, not going to deliver unless you fix it. So maybe it could be a cry for help if it's red, that, hey, this isn't going to work unless we can solve some particular issue. Not going to be delivered. Scope is more specific. So the overall health kind of is your opinion of where you are overall. Your scope could be the particular issue. Like we're going to be delivering the project, but some of the scope is just not going to be there. That was maybe one of the success criteria is not going to be there. The schedule, I could be behind schedule, or I could be at risk, or the budget. I could be over budget, or I could be good on the budget. So we've filled in these items here. So keep this in mind, because when I hit save, you'll see this is going to lock. So now that I hit save, well, it didn't lock yet, but it will lock. This stuff is going to show up on our dashboard. So let's go to the project dashboard. Oh, it just locked. All right. Here is the updates that we just did. It now shows up on your dashboard for everybody to see, including senior leadership or anybody else that needs to view the project or SMART goal. You've got your work completed in the last month. You've got that listed here. This can go as long as this whole section. You've got the upcoming work for the current month. So, and that will be listed here. This update, all this stuff in this area is going to roll up to senior leadership on another report. So it doesn't just stop here, it's going to continue on up. And I mentioned the definitions for these. If you want to view the definitions, this little question mark here will show you the definitions for those. So if you ever forget what I just said, you can check the help right click and see what the definition is. On time and on budget, not on time and not on budget, but will still be delivered as yellow. And then red is will not be delivered. That sort of thing. So that is your status. All right, so we have covered everything below on where that's coming from. Now a useful button would be My Tasks Report. This is specific to whoever's logged in. So when I click this, it's going to show the tasks that are assigned to me. So when I click on that, this is all assigned to me. If you click on it, it will only show what's assigned to you. It's useful for anybody that just needs to see, well, what do I got due? And you can come in, see when stuff's due. The color highlights are there for stuff that's due in the next 2 weeks, or it'll be red, anything due in that's past due. So you can get a quick look at the project. And so if you've created this project plan with 100 steps, and you've got maybe 5 or 10 different people that you've assigned stuff to, they don't need to go search through the whole project plan to go find what was assigned to them. They can just click the button here at the top of My Tasks, and it will show them what's assigned to them. So your team doesn't have to go drill into the plan to find it, unless they really just want to see what the plan looks like, which can be really helpful. But at least you can always point everybody on your team to your tasks report, and they will see what on the plan was assigned to them. And last 2 icons are pretty quick. Budget, you shouldn't have to go into. If you do, it's just going to show you stuff that was pulled in from the intake sheet, and at some point will come in directly in from Financial Force once we get that set up in the next month or so. And then it will also give you the option to add in commitments. So if you wanted to add in some commitments, you could add those in here that maybe don't show up in Financial Force yet, but you want them to display on your dashboard, you can put in here. So like if you're going to donate $1 to our PMO, put that in here, and you've got an example of a commitment that's outstanding. And so that commitment shows up on the dashboard in this section here. This light blue is that outstanding commitments. So once your budget is bigger, you're just not going to see the repeated numbers here, but that's a small bug where when you're down below 10 items, some of those numbers repeat, but your budget's going to be more than $4, so that shouldn't be a problem. Or it'll be 0. You might not have a budget. Okay, so as far as our dashboard goes, the last icon is a change request. For the most part, as the responsible, you can change stuff that's in the project charter. So anything in the project charter, you could probably go change by going to dynamic view and changing it, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. But success criteria, you can't. So once the project's launched, the success criteria has been locked. And that's so that that doesn't change. And the whole point of that is that that's the measurement of success of the project, measurement of everything getting completed, and that shouldn't change, especially not like the day it's due, that sort of thing. So there's a change request for it though. If it does need to be updated, then that change request will go be evaluated by the accountable and perhaps get updated for you if that was a request that really needed to take place. So that is the entire dashboard for the project and all the templates. That's everything. For additional information on it, back at the hub, I'm going to click back to this hub by clicking the YPO. Back at our hub, our Q&A has a lot of what I just talked about. So if you go back to that Q&A, there is information on how to, what is a SMART goal, what is a RACI, and a video about the RACI again. What is a RAID? A video about the RAID again. Project plan, another about the project plan. I'll be making some more detailed ones at some point here, but that's to start with. Okay, so next up is SMART goals. We need to enter our SMART goals into the system to get our projects generated. So once you enter your project into our system, I get notified right away that it got entered, and then we go through and we check to make sure it's got what it's needed, and we can generate the project. There are some forms here to do that. So we're going to click on focus topic to enter in a project. So you go into a focus topic. It brings up a form, and it's a pretty heavy form. So there's a lot of information here. You can open it more than once, but you can only submit one time. But say you want to submit your answers that you have, there's a way to go update those. So if you only have half your information or you only have draft information, go ahead and enter it and put TBD for some stuff, and then we'll go back and change it. So for example, I'm gonna create a project, and we'll call it Sean's big goal. All right, so we're going to create this project. The description, this is a more detailed description. If you remember on the project dashboard, it had a description of the project, because this is just a name. Nobody's going to know what that means, but if you put your description, you can put your description in there. So you can put your description in there. The red means it's required, so you got to put something in there. Business driver, our objectives of the project. If you don't know now because you're just putting in your draft, put in your draft, or if you don't have anything at all, put a TBD for now. But this is a required field. We can't generate the project without the reason for the project. So the business driver is essentially, why is this project being done? And hopefully there's a reason to do the project. If there is no reason, maybe there shouldn't be a project. But essentially, what are the objectives of the project? Overall objectives, it's not necessarily your success criteria. It's just overall, what's it trying to accomplish? And then the background or conclusion or recommendations. This is how. So this was, why is the project being done? Now, how is the project being done? This is information about how it's going to be done with what the background of the solution is, how you came about it, if you did, or just anything about that you have that would really frame the problem of the project. This next one, confidential. This is only for certain projects in the company that need to remain confidential, that only is seen by certain people in senior leadership. So this, most people are not going to check this. If you think you need to check it, you can ask me about it. And if you do check it, I'm going to ask you about it. But essentially, this makes it to where people can't see your projects. It's not open. We want everybody to see all projects. So there is one or two exceptions that we know of, and that's why that exists. But for the bulk of the 100 projects that we're going to be entering all these SMART goals, they need to be visible to everybody. The fiscal year, we're going to be doing it 1920. Let me put TBD in there. We're going to be 1920. Key milestones. This is your SMART. Now you need to define your SMART goal. That's the whole point of this, is that your goal is SMART. You're going to define it. So how is it specific and measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound? So we're going to do that for now because it's required, and we're going to play with it in a minute. Success criteria. This is how you're going to measure the success of the project. You might have all those other objectives and stuff, but what is it that you're going to measure the success? I mean, one of your objectives above could be that people are happy with what you've done. Well, you can't measure happiness, but you can measure it with a score. If you were doing if you're going to interview people and give them a criteria 1 to 10, or something that can be measured explicitly that says this was a success. So make sure you fill out what the metric is for the project. And this is also the item that you can't change once the project has launched without going to your accountable and getting it approved. Transformational initiative. This is which transformation, it's complaining because that one's required. Transformational initiative, you need to know which one it is. If you do none, we'll have to figure out what it is, but hopefully you know which transformational initiative it belongs to, being one of the important ones.
And to be clear, the reason why none is there is because there are some projects that are not related to the 10 transformational initiatives. That would be those that are operational or member activity. So, so none is an appropriate answer if it's not related to one of those 10 transformational initiatives.
Right. And those 10 transformational initiatives would be either impactful, relevant, extraordinary, or prominent. So if it's none, it can't be one of those. It'd have to be operational or member activity. Next is the approved budget. If you know the budget, if not, put 0. And that'll come from finance team. Risks. What risks? These are things that you know in advance could be a risk to the project. It's dependent on another project or something that you want to get it out there so people are aware that that this could be a major problem. You could put that there are no risks, but usually there's some sort of risk. Next optional would be people impacted by your project. So you want to, if you're launching something, a new process for members, you might want to put that members are affected, or if it's something internal, who's affected by it. Anyhow, anybody affected by your project, you want to kind of record that so that everybody's aware. You're responsible. You're going to want to put in the email address of whoever's responsible. So for me, I'm going to put this. And then the accountable. I'd like this to be named, but we can't. It's got to be email address. So keep that in mind. Did you say something, Rhonda?
I was just going to say the same thing. So it really is important that you put the email addresses in. It's a shortcoming of Smartsheet that we can't just put in the name. By putting in the email, it will actually assign it to that person, and it'll show up in your tasks and your projects. If you don't do that, it does not show up.
Yeah. Okay. So you can optional add in your consulted and informed. If there's someone you consulted about putting this in, or you need to keep informed, you can put that in there. Your planned start and end dates, those are required fields. So whenever your project is starting, put that in there. That's going to be recorded. And then your socialization plan, this is optional. If you know what that is, you can check that. Communication plan, if you've developed a communication plan, that in there too. Any dependencies that you have, if it's dependent on resources or contractors or um, um, anything it's dependent on, you could put it there. That may not necessarily show up as a risk, but you're dependent on it. And then, does it require any digital platforms? Perhaps they need an upgrade or something that's out there, or just something as is. That's optional if it is. Is it a committee or a smart council smart goal? Put that there, and which committee it belongs to. And now this, ready to submit. If you have put a TBD up there or you're not quite ready, say, I'm still working on this. And that means it's going to save your changes, but you'll be able to go back and change it. So I'm gonna mark that. If you have put everything in and it's your final draft, then you can mark it as ready to submit. So I'm gonna mark it as still working on this, and we'll go edit it.
So, Sean, we do have a question that I'm gonna take this question. It says that the question is, you know, is this information that's collected from a group of stakeholders and entered collaboratively, or can we expand on how this is done? Is there a business case or other source first? So, in many cases, like the focus topics that are coming out of the initiatives, though that is actually pulled together already in terms of what our purpose is and what we're trying to do from senior leadership, and you're pretty much informed at that point that you're working on a focus topic and you get some information. We'll also eventually be using this for our individual SMART goals, so it's been set up with that in mind. Outside of that, the questions on here have been designed in such a way that if you have a project that you're looking to make either a SMART goal in the future year or you're wanting to work on it now, we're asking very important questions that we think you need to be thinking about on whether or not we should move forward with this. That can be a collaborative effort that you work on with somebody else. It could be something that you're working on by yourself. It really depends on the project itself. I hope that answers the question.
Okay. So now, if you have any attachments, you can attach them here. That's optional. If you had anything that you wanted to preserve with the intake, and you can also have us have the responses sent to you. But all right, so we're going to hit submit now that we're done, and it will submit. And now it has been sent to the PMO. So we're all done with submitting it. Now, say we still wanted to work on it. I'm going to go back to our navigation hub. If you remember here, that's where we entered them. Once you've entered them using this form, that form closes and you can't really get back to that form. But we have another way to do it. And if you go to your project and goals, that will get you there. And so I want to check something right quick because it takes a second sometimes to go in. And I want to see if it's in before I go over there. And yep, it's in. Okay. So I'm going to go into my project and goals, and I'm going to take a look at what project I have. So my responsible, I had entered, if you remember in that form, I had made myself the responsible and I had made Rhonda the accountable. So I'm going to go look at my responsible projects, and you can only see the projects that you're responsible for. So in here, I entered Sean's big goal. That's the one I had just entered with the form. And so we have our project here. It has been given a unique ID, and it has our responses. Now I want to continue where I left off. So I'm going to click on that, and this form that you just filled in pops up over here on the right. And so now we can go through it and update these items. So a couple other things that did pop up. One form here that wasn't on the other form is, does it require a project plan? If you have a super tiny goal that is do a report, if it's really small and it really has nobody else working on it but yourself, and it's you don't have any sequence of events, you just need to do something, then you could say no project plan required. But for the most part, everybody should say yes, that the project plan is required. And my notification saying that someone entered a SMART goal came through from our thing a minute ago. But all your answers that we put in there are here. So everything is in here that we entered before. We said operational, we said TBDs, all our TBDs are in there. Our risks of no risk was in there. So all our stuff is in there. Now, if we did decide that we are done, when we get down here at the bottom, it says, I'm still working on this. I might have to scroll down a little bit. Use the wheel on your mouse to scroll down. It's so small, I don't know. But so instead of saying I'm still working on this, you could switch it to project is ready to submit once you've got all your final answers in there. And once you do that, it will change the status in my dashboard, and then I will go through and generate your templates. So if you're still working on it, then just click still working on it. And so you can do an update and save your changes and continue working on it as needed. So this is how you would update it. I'm going to go through what I just did again because that was kind of quick. So from the navigational hub, there was your project and goals, anything you've previously submitted, or if somebody else submitted it and made you the responsible or the accountable, then you can go in here. So if you go in here, there are the different views. So if you want to look at what you're accountable for, you click on My Accountable, and it shows the projects you're accountable for. Notice I don't see the project I just entered because I'm not accountable for that one. But if I go to the responsible, I was the responsible for that. I am not the consulted for it. So if I go to the consulted, if someone puts you in the consulted, it's here. And if you're consulted, you can look at this stuff without changing. This stuff is read-only for the consulted and informed, but they can take a look, see what it is, and talk about it so that they can review what you've entered. So if you make someone consulted and informed, they can go review what you entered so that you can get some feedback before you hit submit. So that's another way you could do that. So on that project, I could have added people to that consultant informed. I could start adding people in. So that's how that works. And that's how you update your projects on the dynamic view. That's pretty much it. If you want to request,
I have another question.
Go ahead.
It says, once these projects are submitted, who prioritizes them against other ongoing initiatives and resource needs, peoples, and budgets? So right now, the process is that we are entering these projects in after they've already been approved. So in the future, we will work through what that process looks like, because the intent is that when you do have a project that you want to work on, you would submit it in here and it would go through an approval process. But right now, it is only projects that have already been approved that you would come in and use these forms for.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's everything with dynamic view. That's all it is. There's nothing fancy about it. You've got your views, you've got your projects and the forms that have already been submitted, and you can update them. And that's everything to do with dynamic view. You can use it for other stuff if you ever need to do something similar. We can set that up. But for this SMART goal thing, this is how it works. So that is pretty much everything. Rhonda, have I missed anything?
No, so we'll, I know we've had some questions throughout, so we'll just open it up right now to see if there are any additional questions that anybody has. Otherwise, we're done. Okay, I think we're done. Thank you all for your time. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.